After World War II, there was a Swiss theologian by the name of Oskar Kuhlmann who used one of the turning points in World War II to explain some of these notions. He drew attention to what happened on D-Day, June the 6th, 1944. By this time, the Western Allies had already cleaned out North Africa and had started pushing up the boot of Italy. The Russians were coming in from the steppes. They had already defended Stalingrad. They were pushing their way to and through Poland and other Eastern European countries. And now on D-Day, the Western Allies landed on the beaches of Normandy. And in 3 days, they dumped 1.1 million men and tons of war materiel. There was a second front. Anybody with half a brain in his head could see that the war was over. After all, in terms of energy, in terms of war materiel, in terms of the numbers of soldiers, in terms of the way all of these lines and trajectories were working, the war was over. So does that mean that Hitler said, oops, I goofed, and sued for peace? No. What came next was the Battle of the Bulge, where he almost made it right through the coast of France again, except that he ran out of fuel. And the battle for Berlin was one of the bloodiest of the entire war. It wasn't over yet. But a year later, it finally was in Europe. And there was this gap, thus, between D-Day and VE Day, victory in Europe. He says it's like that for Christians. The promised king came. That's our D-Day, the coming of Jesus and what he did on the cross and rising from the dead. And in rising from the dead, he says in the last verses of Matthew's gospel, all authority is given to me in heaven and on earth. He's the king. But does that mean that the devil says, oops, I goofed. I think I better sue for peace? Does it mean that human beings say, okay, you've risen from the dead, you've won, okay, we'd better bow the knee? No, what it means is you have some of the stiffest fighting left because Jesus has not yet defeated all of his enemies. He reigns. All of God's sovereignty is mediated through King Jesus. The kingdom has dawned. It is here. And you're either in this kingdom in the new birth sense or you're not. Or if you conceive of Jesus' total reign, all authority is already his, you're in this kingdom whether you like it or not. The question is whether you bow the knee now, cheerfully, in repentance and faith and thanksgiving, or you will bend the knee in holy terror at the end, because the end is coming. VE Day is coming, and there is no doubt who will be seen to be king on the last day. So when Paul writes to Christians in the city of Corinth about the middle of the first century, he describes Jesus being the king with all of God's sovereignty mediated through King Jesus. And he says, and he must reign in this fashion until he has put his last enemy under his feet. And that last enemy to be destroyed is death itself. Death will die.